But I'm climbing in the walls you never cross. Let us dance and time slips by. But I'm trying hard, just ask me why. See me, teach me, don't just preach me. Every mind is wired uniquely. Slow it down, light it up. I just need the right kind of love. See me, teach me, I'm right here. Learning about it crystal clear. It's not a glitch, it's how I grow. A little patience and you'll know. The spark's alive, just fan the flame. In your class I'm more than a name. You say I'm lazy, say I'm lost. But I'm climbing in a world you never crossed. Let us dance and time slips by. But I'm trying hard, just ask me why. See me, teach me, don't just preach me. Every mind is wired uniquely. Slow it down, light it up. I just need the right kind of love. See me, teach me, I'm right here. Learning about it crystal clear. It's not a glitch, it's how I grow. A little patience and you'll know. The spark's alive, just fan the flame. In your class I'm more than a name.
To the early birds that the ESL live stream, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about dyslexia, all these little, well, it's not little problems, it's a big battle for some kids, just like Stuart Allen from TEFL Lemon say it in the previous trailers about this live. Thank you for joining. If you are early, right here on Instagram, saying a big hello as well. Feel free to leave your questions on TikTok as well. We're live on Facebook, YouTube. Thank you so much for following us. That's the ESL live stream. Get your questions ready, and we'll be here with Stu. And if I don't mispronounce his name, I think it's Bulo, and he's going to be here, an expert in for this field. It's always difficult for teachers to figure it out what to do when you have students with this kind of problems, if we can say it like that. But he's going to help us finding the right path, because like the song say it, I'm not just a name. So here we go. That's the ESL live stream. Welcome everyone, and let's start. I'll see you in a bit.
In the dawn of time, before writing, before civilization, teaching began. The first teachers were the elders, passing knowledge through stories, fire, and survival. From Mesopotamia to Egypt, the first schools were born. Scribes, philosophers, and scholars emerged to shape the world with wisdom. In the heart of Greece and Rome, teaching became an art. Socrates questioned, Plato imagined, Aristotle defined. The foundations of modern education were set. In the East, Confucius taught that education is the path to virtue and harmony. His teachings shaped generations, laying the foundation for lifelong learning and respect. Through dark ages and enlightenment, knowledge survived in monasteries, mosques, and temples, carried by the devoted. The Renaissance brought a new dawn. Books spread knowledge. Teachers became the architects of thought and progress. In the great academies of China, scholars mastered literature, science, and governance, ensuring that education remained the pillar of society. With industry came schools for all. Education moved from the elite to the people, building the workforce of a new age. From war to peace, teachers became the guardians of knowledge, shaping generations and breaking barriers. Today, classrooms transcend walls. Technology, AI, and innovation redefine teaching, but the heart of education remains unchanged. Dedicated teachers lighting the way. Tomorrow's world is unknown, but one truth remains. Teachers will always shape the future. From the first humans to the far future, teaching is the greatest legacy of humankind.
And here we are live, the ESL live stream. Welcome, Stu. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, really well. Kind of good. I've got a dentist appointment right after this live stream, so just keep it rolling. Keep this rolling.
Oh,
so I don't need to go.
Oh my! This is, my mother is an assistant dentist, so I know what it feels. My mom would always check out my teeth. Hey, come on, show me. Open your mouth. Let me see your. Come on. So I know that kind of feeling. That's the place I hate to go, and I can feel you on this one. Good. How are you doing? A special live today, huh?
Yeah, really looking forward to this one because I think being teachers, we've all got people most likely with ADHD or dyslexia or both in our classes, And
True.
if you've been teaching for any length of time, you would have come across that. I made like, as I do every week, I do like a promotional video to talk about the topic and kind of generate interest. But this one got really a lot of interest, a lot of questions. So I think a lot of people are going to be here wanting to know more, including me. I'm going to be learning as well.
Exactly. And me too. That's the ESL live stream. So today, feel free to leave your question right down there. If you have any questions on Instagram, thank you for watching on TikTok as well, Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for joining. Leave your questions. We'll try to answer. We have a couple of questions as well we're going to be asking in the live. And yes, Stu, that I'm going to have a special live. Do you remember Koala Go? Does it sound familiar to you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember they really good for online teachers that are teaching online, right? And you can do different kind of language games and set your own assessments and everything like that.
Exactly. So we're gonna have it's gonna be we're gonna have live. It's gonna be on May 22nd at 7:30 p.m. Beijing time. I guess you might have classes at that time, right, Stu?
I think I will do. Yeah, I think I will do about that
Yeah.
time. But let's see, maybe.
So you're welcome to catch up anyway during the live. We're gonna have a full tutorial, and they have some new features that are game changing for online teachers. So feel free to join for this day with Xavier, the co-owner of Koala Go. Feel free to join. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna see really game changer tech tools that you can use in your class. So, without waiting, we're going to welcome Bulo, if I pronounce it well, to the live stream. Let's welcome Bulo. Here we go.
And now, let's welcome today's guest, Boelo Vanderpool.
And welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank
Hi,
you.
Bulo. Can you hear? Can you hear us?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me too?
Yes,
Yeah, very well,
beautiful.
thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank
By the
you.
way, two things. Very well pronounced, my name. And second, a good thing for you, Stu, I can talk about this for hours. So if you want to miss the appointment and maybe put it to next week, next year, no problem for me.
Oh, that's good news. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you for joining the live below. It's
Thanks for
been a
having
great
me.
pleasure. You asked me, yeah, Mike, you wanted to join the ESL live stream. And I say, yeah, there's no problem. We are very welcoming, especially, what you are specialized in, your expertise would be really, really important for teachers. Can you please quickly introduce yourself to everyone so we get to know each other?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm Dutch from birth. You might see it from my surname. Been living in Spain for 30 years now, and I've been involved in language learning and language teaching for 30 years. So I worked for several language schools myself. Also worked in the UK for a year. Opened my own language school about 25 years ago, and ran a group of teachers teaching English to Spanish speakers. And I've always been very obsessed by students who seem to be unable, I'm going to say who seem to be unable to learn the language in a conventional way. Because I was always a student like that. So I've learned English, I've learned Spanish. I get by in German and a little bit in French as well. But I've never been able to learn it in a very conventional way. And I've also
Yeah.
never understood grammar. So I don't understand grammar. I always say, don't ask any grammar question to me because I really don't know what you're talking about. But yet, I do speak the language. I can use the language. I can communicate in the language perfectly in all senses. So
That's
that's
the
always
point.
been a little bit of my passion, like finding out how people learn languages. I did a coaching and emotional intelligence degree, specialized in language coaching as well. And then about 6 years ago, through an international project, I realized I'm dyslexic myself. So I realized I'm dyslexic. I realized I have ADHD as well, and this is when I went like, oh well, that's maybe a thing, because I realized that, especially speaking to dyslexic children and to their parents as well. When I say parents, I usually say mothers. And when I would talk about education in general, and then I would go straight to learning English, the frustration was like huge in their eyes. It was like utter frustration, nothing more than frustration. And so I said, well, that's not possible. I mean, because these kids should be able to learn the language. It's impossible that they can't learn the language, because I've learned the language with a brain that works differently. I know many other dyslexics that have learned the language perfectly with a brain that works differently. So I started investigating, researching, developing, trial error. I set up a special dyslexia-friendly course in school as well for Spanish speakers. In the end, we had about 150 students in the course from Spain and Latin America. Worked extremely well, very, very good results. And then I got more and more teachers, schools asking me and hearing about it, and hey, how do you do this? Can I learn how to do that as well? And then basically what I said, okay, well, that's it. So from now on, I left the school with the teachers. And since about a year and a half, I dedicate 24/7 of my time to helping language teachers and helping language schools understand dyslexia and ADHD and autism a little bit as well, but most of all dyslexia and ADHD. Understand it, recognize the signs, and also how to adapt my classes so they work not only for the other students, but they also work for my neurodiverse students.
That sounds really interesting, Bulo. So for your well, we've got the question on the screen here, but just to set the context, you say that you were only diagnosed with having dyslexia and ADHD 5 years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah. About 6-7 years ago, I think it was. Yeah.
Right. So how did you kind of suspect that something was wrong as a child at school?
No, I didn't. I did not suspect that anything was wrong at school. That's the whole thing, that you don't suspect. I have always felt partially stupid. So I've always known that I wasn't stupid. So that's not the case. But there were just some things at school that were completely over my head.
Yeah.
Like completely, I was literally unable to process it, and my brain was literally unable to understand it. As I said before, grammar, I was unable to understand grammar. I still am in a conventional way. It makes no sense to my brain at all. Whereas there are other things in school and in life that I know that I'm extremely good at. So in the end, what happens a lot, and you see this all over the place, and it's actually, there's a name for this as well. It's a thing called twice exceptionality, so 2E, and that is a child or a person with a dyslexic or ADHD or even an autistic brain that also has an above average level of intelligence. Now, I'm not saying that I'm gifted or very intelligent, but it usually, because it almost as if it balanced itself out, you know, it balanced. So you in some subjects you're very, very good. It's like a piece of cake. You just walk through and you get straight A's and no problem whatsoever. And in others, your dyslexia gets it down, it draws it down a little bit, but not down enough for the red flags, for the alarms to go off, you know. And that's when teachers start saying to you, and this has happened to me, you can do more if you want to, or teachers say to you, oh, you're just being lazy. Yeah, and as if it were a matter of wanting to do this. Yeah, as if it's I just don't have the willpower. Oh, Bulo just doesn't have the willpower. He just doesn't want to do this, you know. And you grow up with this. And this is like a red thread throughout your whole life, basically, until you realize, no, this is not a thing of willpower. This is how my brain works, and I know I am extremely good at seeing patterns, at seeing opportunities, at seeing certain things, at seeing solutions, but I'm also extremely bad at paying attention to detail and sometimes even organizing myself. Yeah, that it takes me long. I am very organized, but it takes me a lot of effort and a lot of energy to be as organized as I am.
Yeah, to reach that kind of level of organization, you have to put in a bit of extra effort.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what exactly is dyslexia, and how can teachers or parents spot the early signs of dyslexia or ADHD in students and children? Wow.
So with question one, Stu, I think you can already postpone your dentist appointment to in about a week or something like that. No, because as a matter of fact, it is not very. I mean, exactly what it is. It takes a long time to understand because it's a complex condition. But to explain it in a very simple way, it's a different way of the brain in processing the information it receives. So all our brains receive, maybe in a classroom, you've got 20 kids in a classroom, and you give them the same instructions. Yeah, you give them the same instructions. So all the children receive the same information. Now, every brain processes that information in a different way. Yeah, and with a dyslexic brain, the thing is that it processes the information in a different way. Same as with the ADHD brain, it processes the information in a different way. And another issue as well is that when you know one child with dyslexia or one child with ADHD, you know that one child with dyslexia or ADHD. So it's not also not that, oh, every child with ADHD processes the information in the same way. So there's like an ADHD way of processing information or a dyslexia way of processing information. There isn't, and there's a lot of functions going on in the head. There's a lot of what you call them working memory issues as well here with students with dyslexia and ADHD. A lot of prefrontal cortex going on there, especially with ADHD as well. So that's the main difference between a neurotypical student, so that's basically 80% of your class, and a neurodiverse or a neurodivergent student, which is about 20% of the population. And not many people know this. This is about 1 in 5.
That's a high amount. That's a high number.
It is a very high amount. Yeah. So it's estimated that about 20% of the population has a neurodivergent brain. So this could be dyslexia, ADHD, autism, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, giftedness, etc., many things. And of this 20%, probably the majority has at least dyslexia. So dyslexia is by far the most prevalent condition, but maybe also one of the most difficult conditions to recognize in your students, because it's really in the brain. It's not visible. You don't act out as being dyslexic. You know, when people say, "Oh, you don't look dyslexic," I mean, why? What should a dyslexic person look like? You know, should I have a different color, or should it say dyslexia or a big D on my forehead? I don't know. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to find out, because you are someone who's as well has dyslexia or has this problem, but we can't figure it out. That's the thing for teachers, right? It seems to be something really difficult, because we all have lazy students in the classroom, but you won't think about that it might be a sickness in some ways. If it's,
I can tell you, Mike. That when I work a lot with teachers. That's what I do now. I work with teachers in language schools.
Yeah.
And in any training I do, I usually ask teachers as well, how many students would you label as lazy, unmotivated, class clowns, disruptive, like the typical kid? I would almost say the typical kid in class that if your academic year goes September, June, in June you would say, "Oh, please don't come back next year." Yeah, or please go to a different teacher next year. Please don't come back to my class. Yeah, and I actually did this online in a webinar with about 5,000 people. And we did a poll, and the majority answered between 25 and 40. So that there's between 25 and 40% of the students, they would let, definitely. And then I said to them, I said, what if I told you that it is highly likely, I'm not going to put my hand in fire here, but highly likely that among these disruptive, lazy, class clowns, unmotivated students, this is where you will find your undiagnosed dyslexic, ADHD and autistic students, because one of the main problems is that the vast majority of neurodiverse students isn't diagnosed. And it was actually, I think it was the British Dyslexia Association that a couple of years ago published an article saying that, according to them, approximately 80% of dyslexic children in the UK educational system goes through education without being diagnosed. And that's a huge problem. But Going back to your question, because you asked, and I want the listeners to get some takeaways here as well. You said, so there's no easy way, but what is a way to spot signs of dyslexia and ADHD in the classroom? Yeah. And I usually say to teachers, start by looking at unexpectedness. So start by looking at, it's actually called a discrepancy model. There's a model, it's a discrepancy model. And it's basically the difference between what you know the student knows. So as a teacher, you know what your student knows. Right? You go, I know you can do this, but why isn't it showing most of all, in a written exam? Yeah. So if I know you know this, but I give you a written exam and it's just not coming out, it's just not showing, and then I go, okay, well, you might have a bad day. That's it. Okay, everybody can have a bad day. But this is a continuous thing. It is today, it's next week, the week after, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and then one day I just grab you aside and I sit you next to me, and I do the same exam but in spoken format. I just ask you the questions, and you just respond verbally, and all of a sudden, bang, there it is. You know this. Then for me, it's like all the alarm bells should go off. And that for me would be like, okay, let's talk to someone, because I'm not the one doing it, obviously. And maybe we should get this kid diagnosed.
Yeah. So like kind of that's the importance of, I guess, of doing formative assessment, like throughout your teaching. And then when you come to like a summative at the end, and you can see like a discrepancy, you know, like you say, an unexpectedness.
Yeah, exactly. And as well, and I always say this to teachers as well, the teachers in my training as well, I said, it's never our job to diagnose dyslexia. We're teachers, we're not diagnosticians. But I believe it is our job to understand how my student learns best. So it is my job to recognize if my student learns better in a different way, in a non-neurotypical way. And if I do that, then still it is my choice to say, hey, listen, I'm going to share this with other teachers. I'm going to share this with somebody else. I'm going to share with the parents, or I'm just going to work with my students first. And we don't have to take this lightly. I feel so bad about teachers, or I even get angry at teachers in schools that are so easy in labeling a child, you know, like, oh, he's done this, oh, he must be ADHD, or he must be dyslexic, you know, especially when stigma is such a huge issue around these topics.
Yeah, and it's very because you've had your career in, you know, Spain, the UK. Myself and Mike, our teaching careers predominantly been out in China, where it gets a little bit more problematic because of stigmatization, lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. A lot of teachers they've had no training on ADHD or dyslexia. Parents will try to stifle it. There'll be a denial that there's anything kind of wrong with their child, and they won't want to enter into discussions about it, right, Mike?
Yeah, and in Xi'an as well, there's no specialized school, if we can say it like that. So we had students like in our classroom, that was even more than ADHD or dyslexia. It was even worse. And these kids didn't have any places to go for, you know, there were no education path. So in the classroom, it was really difficult because some of other students will not bully, but laugh at him, you know, laugh at this boy in the class. And what I would do with that, I would give the same chance to him. I remember that kid. He was super excited. He was like crazy. I mean, of course, you look at him, he's different from others, but I didn't care about it. I say, yeah, come. All right, come down. Let's go do the role play. And the guy never speak during the class, but right away he had the answer in this role play right away, you know? And then everybody was like, you see, everybody, a big clap to, I forgot that, but that was 5-6 years ago. And the mom was even in the back because he had problems to stay on his chair, you know, he couldn't. And imagine in China with 55 kids in the classroom, bro, that was something, you know. I always saw that kid, you know. For me, what interests me in the classroom is the challenge. When I have students like this, I'm going to do anything to show others that he's not inferior as you are. He's just the same. He's just has a different way to learn things, but he can learn even better than all of you. That's what I was saying to them, you know, sometimes. And the kid was so happy, and he would, you know, he would go on, well, raising his hand. He would come from the back of the classroom, and believe me, it's far when you get 55 kids in a class, and he would come right in front of me. Hey, teacher me. And that was it. You know, he had because before nobody would support him, even
Yeah.
the Chinese teacher wouldn't care much. For the Chinese teacher, that was more a pain
Yeah.
for
An
her, and
annoyance.
maybe she doesn't
Mm,
know what to do with him as
yeah.
well. That was the problem. So you know it's really difficult to figure it out sometimes in the
Yeah.
classroom what's wrong with the kid. But in this condition, that was pretty obvious. But sometimes, I have students as well in high school. Yeah, they're lazy, but I don't really think it's because of ADHD or Alexia. It's just, that kind of school, international school, where there are, spoiled kids as well. So it's difficult to make the real difference sometimes.
Yeah. 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 But hey, I can tell you, Mike, that what you're saying about teachers in China, we can basically say teachers around the world. So I've
Oh yeah.
been I've worked with teachers from many places around the globe, and they all say the same. They all say, I wasn't trained to know this. I wasn't trained to understand this. I do some teacher training, and sometimes teachers are almost retiring, but they still want to go to the training because they go like, I still want to know about this. And then at the end, they come up to me and they say, where were you 30 years ago when I started teaching? Because had I known this 30 years ago, many students would have been treated differently. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but honestly, I do want to say this as well. We as teachers, we don't have to beat ourselves up on this. I mean, because it's not our fault. I always tell them, it's not your fault. You were not trained to know this. That's it. But now it is your
Yeah.
opportunity, and I think it is your responsibility to get trained in this, because now you know this is a thing. Now you know there's I got it here, 10 to 15% of your students with dyslexia, and 20% with a neurodiversity, with a neurodivergence. Now it is your job to learn about this, to understand this, and to be able to reach these students and to get these students to their full potential. Because as you said, and I like it, I love it, Mike, what you just said. That kid in your class with a different brain, with a dyslexic brain, he could probably be more fluent and more natural in the English spoken language than all the other 54 kids.
Exactly, because it came out. When we do drills in the class, he's not gonna participate. He's gonna maybe say the word once, and it's gonna be perfect. And some of the kids, they had to practice again and again because the pronunciation is not there. But when he would come up, everything was like, yeah, bro. I was like, woo.
But Bulo, I've got a question actually. Just before we, Mike, if you can just go back to that last question, because I think this is quite problematic because it is such an important topic to cover in 1 hour. Very we kind of need 2 or 3 hours, right, for this one, and there's going to be.
I'll be back anytime you want me to.
Yeah, we might have to get you back on because we're going to have thousands of teachers watching this live stream to learn.
Yeah.
Like myself, I don't know a lot about this, so this wasn't on our list of questions. It's just something that's popped into my mind. So when I started, I'd already been teaching for 4 years. I was managing a school in Xi'an. I was managing a very big EF school. And we went to Shanghai for a conference, and so I had a student in my class who obviously had learning difficulties. He was a different type of learner. There was something wrong there, and I raised up. I said, I think he's got dyslexia or ADHD. And I got slapped down by the area manager. Said, are you a doctor? And I said, well, no, I'm not. And he said, well, then you can't diagnose. But and obviously he had a point. I'm not a doctor, but I knew there was something up. So
Yeah.
In your professional opinion, Bulo, as a teacher, what should teachers do if they know that there's a problem? Do they elevate it? Do they raise it? Or do they, what should they do?
Good question. First of all, I would say you said, I think. You didn't say he is. So that for me is a major difference. And when someone says, I think, then my next question is, what makes you think that? Basically. So what have you spotted in the student? What do you think? So, but that's on the other side. What I would say to teachers. So first of all, I would say get trained. Okay. don't speak out of ignorance. Like, oh, he must be. There's a difference between I think and he must be. You know, that's a huge difference in opinion. So first get trained, and what I say to my teachers as well, the teach all my training, I say you now can spot the signs of dyslexia and ADHD. Still, when you see the first red flags, so to speak, you recognize the first signs of a possible dyslexia and ADHD or autism in your student. Go over the other elements, the other signs, because I usually give teachers a whole list of signs that they should go over. Go over the other ones. Observe over time, like see if this may be a day off. I mean, I think Mike said as well. I mean, dude, everybody has a bad day. And there are lazy students. I mean, let's face it. Some students are lazy. You know, it's not like you're lazy, you must be dyslexic. No, you're lazy. There might be something behind this, and it might be dyslexia. It might be something else. So I would always say observe over time and see that this is something that's a continuum in the student. Maybe even talk it over with a colleague. If that same student is with another student in another class, and talk to that other teacher and say, hey, I've been observing this in that student. Have you seen that as well? And then with all that information, then probably take it up with I don't know who in your school would be responsible for that, an academic manager, a special educational needs coordinator, your director, etc., whoever. But don't take this lightly, take this very seriously. And what I would usually say to teachers as well, that while you go through that whole process of observing over a couple of weeks, say a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, already implement the dyslexia-friendly strategies that I work with on the course, implement them with students, and see how they work. Because if after 3-4 weeks of observing that student and me implementing strategies for my student, I see that they worked, and I see that my student is improving both in his behavior as in his English abilities and how he operates in the classroom, his self-esteem, if everything is going up, then I have more arguments to give the other person. I can say, hey, listen, I spotted this, I spotted that, I observed it over time, I talked it over with another colleague, I haven't taken this lightly. I have also applied some strategies to the student, this, and this, and dude, they worked. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it with you. I will keep on doing what I've been doing so far. I mean, I don't need further instructions if you don't want to give them. I'll keep on here because I know the student's on a good streak. But take it with you, do whatever you think that has to be done. And I would usually do the same when approaching parents, because many teachers say to me, yeah, but how do if I'm the one that has to talk to the parents?
Yeah, a bit of a delicate subject, right?
Exactly. Then for me, it is always easier to talk to a parent after a while and say, hey, listen, I have been observing your son, your daughter. I have seen these elements or these signs in your son, daughter. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I'm not sure if it's been spotted somewhere else. I have tweaked a little bit in my classes. I've done this, these strategies. They work perfectly. I don't know how you have seen your child at home, if you have seen any changes in self-esteem, in motivation, in whatever. And this is extremely important. This is extremely important. Whenever I speak to a parent or the child, and maybe even the special educational needs coordinator, especially the parent or the child, I always talk about the strengths of that student as well. So, and that's a very important thing. And many times when teachers come to my courses or webinars maybe as well, and they walk away, they go like, oh, I didn't know this was a positive thing. And I go like, dude, I'm wearing the t-shirt, you know, it's all over here. Because dyslexia and ADHD exists for a reason. It's an evolutionary thing. So we do have a purpose in society, to put it that way. And there are many dyslexic strengths and ADHD strengths. But the problem is that society in general, so I'm going to say 99.999% of society, what we do is we focus on the weaknesses. We focus on the can't-dos. So you got this 12, 13, 14-year-old kid that has been hearing for his whole life what he can't do. Yeah, what he's not good at. And he's never heard what he's good at. He knows that he's good at some things, but he thinks normal. He thinks, Well,
Yeah.
I've always been like that. I've always been a good actor or a good drawer, or I've been good at, I don't know, making videos, whatever, fixing things, building with Lego, whatever, you know. But then we can point out, hey,
Mm.
but you are not very good. You are brutally good. You are extremely good. And what you did, Mike, when you got the kids in front of your class and say, let's do a role play, and all of a sudden, bang, he flourishes, you know, and you see this is his strength. So I will always bring this strength with me when I communicate with the parents and the child as well. So at least what you said as well, from the stigma point of this being a very negative thing, this being almost a reason for shame. Many societies think this is a disease, that it should be cured, yeah, or it's a spell, maybe even. And when someone says, "Oh, it's a spell," I say, "No, no, 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 no. You got this wrong. This is not a spell. This is a blessing." I said, "The spell is the educational system. The spell is the
Yeah.
education." I said, "The whole problem here in the equation is not your son's or your daughter's brain. The whole problem is the educational system. That's the problem. But you are blessed with a child like that. Absolutely."
Yeah. It's like Mike said, you know, in China, maybe in Shanghai, you'll have something. But I mean, if you've got ADHD or dyslexia and you're in a smaller city in China, you've had it. There's nothing for you. We had in my last school in China, it's just over from Mike's school. It's another posh school. Only rich parents can send their kids there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we had
exactly. Yeah.
we had a student. I won't say his name, but he was really he had severe autism. You know, had been diagnosed, everything, and there's no the only other place in Xi'an for that boy was just this place out in the countryside with like these IEs cooking rice and you know, learning next to nothing. So his parents kind of used their, you know, I guess their network and their authority, and they got their kid into the school where we were, and it was a huge problem for him. He didn't have the correct qualified teachers around him. He caused difficulties for the other students, and in the end, he kind of got asked to leave at the end of primary, and he's gone over to Kung Chau, which is Mike's school. So, Mike, you'll probably have him in your school now. Yeah, so it's just a difficulty for teachers to know exactly what to do. So, well, yeah, we'll get cracking on. Actually, Mike,
That goes to that question.
yeah. So, actually, it was number. Yeah,
That joined that question.
yeah,
pretty
that's
much.
it. So, yeah, exactly. How would you support students without neglecting the rest of the class?
Okay, so
Yeah.
presume you have a mixed ability classroom, right? Which is this, and bearing in fact that what I said before, I gave some statistics, and I said that about 20% of the population has a neurodiverse brain. Yeah, so dyslexia, ADHD, autism, etc. Now, it's also true because many teachers will say, well, that's not true. I got 50 students and I only know 2 in my classroom. I say, yeah, but it means that statistically, there's another 8 that don't know they have a dyslexic brain or an autistic brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, and I
Yeah.
always say, bear in mind that the vast majority doesn't know they have a neurodivergent brain, but they still have it. Yeah, it's not that I don't know, so I don't have. No, I have it, but I'm not aware of this. That is the thing. So 20% of your student has
Yeah.
a different operating brain. I would, and what we are taught as teachers, and I think I said this before as well, what we are trained for as teachers is to teach the neurotypical brain. So we are taught, or we are trained to teach the 80%, yeah, the other 80%. What if we tweak this question and we turn this question around? And what if we say, how do I teach the whole classroom so it also works for my neurodiverse students? Because that's the beauty. The beauty is that when you adapt your classes in your mind, I adapt my classes to work for my dyslexic or ADHD or maybe even autistic students. Actually, what you're doing is you're opening up your teaching strategies to the whole group. I can't think of anything that I could tell you to do for your dyslexic or ADHD students that would go in detriment, that would be detrimental for the rest of your students. That you would say, oh yeah, but the other kids, Bulo, honestly, doesn't work for them. It's the complete opposite. Usually teachers say, oh, that works for all my students. So for me, it's not about this for you and this for the rest. It's let's open up to all my students. And what I do in my training, I do not make teachers' lives more difficult. I try to make teachers' lives easier and more pleasant. And I try to make them reach more students and have a better rapport and a better relationship with their students and have more inclusive classrooms. And face it, if they're private teachers, in the end, also more money, because these parents are willing to go a long way if they know that you are the teacher who understands their child.
Mm. So what things would you do, Bulo? Sorry, what things, Bulo, would you do as a teacher? Because a lot of teachers will be watching this. So it's okay. So what do I do?
Listen, I can give you three. Let me try and give you three very simple examples. One, I would give always, whenever I give instructions, make sure I give very clear instructions. Make sure I make the instructions 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure I write the instructions on the board so the students can check what are the instructions. Dyslexic and ADHD students usually have very big trouble with working memory and short-term memory and sequencing. So for them, following instructions might not be the easiest thing to do. If you tell your student, like 55 students, you've got big class, 55, you tell a student, hey, get your student book out, open it on page 25, look at the text on the right side, read it, answer the questions, and make a drawing when you're finished. Yeah, it's six things. The neurotypical student would usually be able to understand the sequence and to follow the sequence. Yeah. Now your dyslexic student will go like book. Okay, book. Gets the book out, regardless which book it is. So it might even be the wrong book. Page. There was a 5 in it. Was it 25, 35, 45? I don't know. There was a 5 in it. So maybe it's 35. Reading. Oh yeah, text. Looks for a text. It's on the left side. Yeah. Reads the text, and then I think there is something about drawing, and then starts scribbling something. And then you walk around the classroom, and you go, "What on earth are you doing?" Yeah. And he goes, "What you said, teacher?" You said, "No, this is not what I said." "Yes, it is." "No, it isn't." Well, then you got this whole fight, and obviously you were right. But so that's one tweak. Very, very clear instructions. Make sure everybody understands the instructions as well. Something else, what I would do. Oh yeah, especially for ADHD students, I would put an analogical clock at the front end, so where I'm standing, of the classroom, so all students can see this. A main issue with dyslexia and ADHD is time blindness. And time blindness is not the fact that they can't see time, that they can't read time. If they don't, oh, what time is it? It's this. Oh, I don't understand what time it is. But it's the ability to estimate time, how long a task will last. Is it going to be 5 minutes? Is it going to be 20 minutes? I don't know. Also, when you tell a student you have 20 minutes to do this, and you go, yeah, but exactly 20 minutes? How much is that? Yeah, is that much longer than going to the toilet? I don't know, as an example, or is that shorter? So for them, that estimation of time in their head. So if I put a clock in front of the room and I tell them this is where we start, and when the big hand is over there, this is when we finish, the students see time passing. Dyslexic students are very visual, so they have to see things happening. Yeah, they have to see exactly. And again, it's good for your dyslexics, it's good for your ADHD, but it's also good for the rest of your students because they can keep track of time as well. And one of the things that I would do, maybe the first thing that I would do as a teacher, is empathy. So for me, empathy with capital letters all around, empathy and understanding. And to my neurodiverse students and say, hey, listen, I understand that your brain processes in a different way. I understand that some things are difficult for you. I understand that traditional education might not always be the best environment for you, but I have been trained in this, or I'm going to get trained in this. I want to help you. And very good question. Do you know what I can do to help you? And that
Exactly.
that
Awesome.
small conversation, those 2 minutes, yeah, and also the I believe in you, because I to the students, I know this is difficult, but not impossible.
True.
And I always say to
Yeah.
my students,
Obviously, you know,
yeah,
kids didn't choose to be like that, right? I mean, you gotta have that empathy, you know. So of course, and be heal, support, help, always be behind him, and maybe asking him twice or a third, like, hey, do you understand, or is everything all right? Yeah, this is something you gotta constantly ask, I
yeah.
guess. Maybe with that's one thing as well. Maybe there are teachers, they don't know, should I always ask him what's going on, or should I, you know, it's difficult to find the right, the you know what I mean.
It's difficult to find a balance, I guess, with all kids, and especially with those kids.
Yeah, that's it.
But many times with these children,
Yeah.
even the younger ones, only finding a teacher that is empathetic about it and that understands it, that makes such a huge difference. That is wow. And I actually
Yeah,
had one student once
of course. Yeah.
who said to me, he said, Bulo, he said, finding a teacher like your teachers who understand about dyslexia is almost as difficult as finding a unicorn. So I was like, wow. I said, that's beautiful. It makes you it makes you feel a special teacher. It definitely does makes you feel a special teacher, and it makes you feel that you truly make a difference in other people's lives. You truly do.
Yeah, you Bulo, you run a course, right? You run a
Yeah.
course about would you like to just quickly tell us something about your course?
Yeah, no, exactly. I run a course. I call it the Dyslexia Smart Teacher Program, as you can see here. And what I do with language teachers around the world, I take them basically through a whole process, a whole journey, a Dyslexia Smart journey. So I explain to teachers what dyslexia and ADHD is, so they really understand the basics of dyslexia and ADHD, how the brain works as well, how it affects language learning. I even make them feel a little bit what it is like to be dyslexic. Then I teach them how to recognize the signs of dyslexia and ADHD in a classroom, so they can easily spot, as we talked about before, the signs of dyslexia and ADHD, and how to go and what to do after that with those signs. I teach them dyslexia and ADHD friendly strategy. So how can I adapt my classroom? Also, how can I adapt my classroom environment, like literally adapt my classroom, my teaching? How can I adapt maybe the school environment as well? It's also about how can I adapt my material? So how can I create dyslexia-friendly material? How can I tweak the material I have and adapt the material? How can I make dyslexia-friendly exams and exercises? We talk about motivation and self-esteem, because this is a very, very big issue for dyslexic and ADHD students. Self-esteem is a huge issue. We talk about inclusiveness, communication, what we talked about before, like how do I communicate with parents? How do I communicate with other teachers? How do I make my own classroom inclusive and fight or prevent bullying? I think Mike, you said it before as well, that the child being bullied in class by his classmates. So we talk about that as well. And at the end, we also talk a little bit about the other specific learning differences. We talk about autism, we talk about dyspraxia, we talk about dyscalculia, a little bit more about ADHD as well. Teachers can take it in two ways. It's either completely asynchronous, so that's no direct involvement with me. And there is also a combined hybrid program where teachers will have 3 live sessions with me, and later they will also join a network of international dyslexia smart teachers. So it's a very, very, it's about 6-8 weeks more or less. It's a journey. Teachers that take it at the end, they say, it's better that it was 8 weeks. I could have never processed all this in 1 weekend or in 1 week. And this is specifically for teachers who teach already. So this is very important, that teachers are able to reflect on it, apply it immediately the next day or the same day in the classroom, and trial and error and see what works, what doesn't work, and basically see that it does work for their students.
I think this is something also that might be good for schools to get involved with, to do a whole school training, right, as well.
I do whole school programs as well. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I do this for individual teachers, and with the individual teachers, we also talk about how can I make this work for me, because then we talk mainly about private teachers that say how can I make a financial profit of this, you know, because hey, I run my own small business and I need to make ends meet. And as I said before, this is a market. There is a market out there, and these parents will go far away. And if they do find that unicorn that we said, if they do find that very special dyslexia smart teacher, they are willing to invest, because it's not paying, it's investing. They're willing to invest and go a long way, and they will stay with you.
I think schools have a duty. It's not like, oh, you know, we want the teacher. They have a duty to respond to the needs of the students.
Yeah. Exactly. So my other program is exactly, it's basically the same, but then what I do, I work with groups of students, with groups of teachers, and that usually does include live sessions, and then I have live sessions with the teachers online, obviously. And what we do as well during that program is that the teachers create their own material, they create their own lesson activities, the lesson plan, we try it out, they try it out, so we got real feedback from the students, and it really takes them on that journey, and teachers are not the same afterwards. I can assure you, teachers change, and the beauty is that many teachers throughout the program, they go, they say it's not a complete change of what I've been doing. So I do a lot of the stuff that I did. I do the same, but now I tweaked a lot. So now I edit here, I edit there. It's easy tweaks, but you have to know and you have to understand why they work also as well for your students, why they work for your students. And they say that the atmosphere in the classroom, the whole ambience, the inclusiveness changes almost overnight. Sometimes with one or two activities, bang, everything changes.
Very, very, very cool. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Awesome.
Mike, you've got a question about tech or something?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, exactly, because this is something that very important with AI and all the tools that we have now. I guess, do you get one or two tools that you can recommend, or what kind of blended learning we can use in a classroom?
Yes.
That would be great.
So you have several versions of reading pens that are specific pens, like small computers almost. So you can read a textbook, and it literally reads out. It's a text to speech basically. Yeah. Those are very good.
Yes.
I would use text to speech software. So if I can give my student something in writing that he can listen to it, but also speech to text software. So I have my students dictate, and then it goes directly on text. And basically Microsoft has it. I think Google has it. Almost all the big programs have that as well. And honestly, I would say for your ADHD students, and I'm not sure if you saw this, but this is not techie at all. This is as easy as something like this. This works perfectly for many ADHD students, because ADHD is all about that energy that flows through the body, and that we don't know what to do with this energy. And what I do to channel that energy and to keep focused, because it's a matter of focus, of me being focused on your questions, on the text, on me speaking, etc. This keeps me focused. So my nerves are a bit less. I have this in my hand. I maybe have a pen in my hand. I play with my pen. I also work standing most of the time. So I'm standing right now. I'm not sitting. I know this isn't easy in big classrooms, but I think you said before as well, like 55 kids in a class are all sitting down. Maybe there's an option for the ADHD kids to stand up every now and then and maybe lean on their desk or have a different place to work. And it's trying to find, again, easy tweaks around what I can do with my students.
Yeah, so kind of like moving things around, making the classroom setting a little bit different, and just engaging the students all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make it work.
Engaging. That's true. That's pretty much.
Yeah, make it work for all your students. I mean, it's something is as easy with your ADHD students as to make sure they're the ones to clean the blackboard or the whiteboard, you know, and make sure they sit close to you. Because when if they sit close to you and they're dyslexic or ADHD, you can keep an eye on them, you can keep them focused. It's very likely that your ADHD student wears off every now and then, you know, because that's just how their brain works. That their brain isn't able to focus continuously, and every now and then there's a fly, and then they follow the fly, or basically their mind just drifts off, and then the only thing they need is for you to go over and to maybe tap on the shoulder and, hey, come back to class. Oh yeah, thanks, teacher. Or maybe agree with them before you start class or before you start the course and say, hey, I know this is an issue for you sometimes. What can I do to bring you back? Yeah, and maybe they say, hey, I don't know, obviously not throw something at me, but and again, empathetically, how can I empathetically bring you back to class? That's
I think students, they really don't often get that from, I think especially in Asia, where the teaching is very teacher-led, huge classes, you know, up to 80 students and stuff, and the students just go missing. The teachers have little training, little time, they just have to keep going, and they don't have this connection, this human connection.
But this is also one of the reasons why I do the one-on-one sessions or the group sessions in the Dyslexia Smart School program, because this is exactly where we can talk about what the teacher's daily life looks like, you know, because obviously in any training anywhere you talk about idyllic situations, you talk about utopia. Yeah, and I always say this is utopia. This is if you had a one-on-one and you can do anything you like with your dyslexic students, do all this, and it's beautiful. But then you have to take, it's almost like a menu, you like pick and take what works and what you can do. But then in those direct live sessions, we really talk about and we brainstorm, okay, in your situation, 80 students in a classroom, what can I do to make it work for these 20%, 16?
Oh, impressive. Yeah. good maths brain right there.
Yeah.
No,
it did take me 2 seconds. But
impressive. We got a comment from.
We got a question from.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, from Ibtisam. Yeah, I have many cases in my class, especially neurodiverse and ADHD. But the problem is the short time of the session. I cannot deal with them, and I come back home feeling sad about them. So she's asking, please, sir, how can I use the dice?
The dice. This is not a dice as a dice. This for me, this is a fidgeting toy. So a fidgeting toy is basically something that keeps your hands occupied and it keeps you busy. You will have many ADHD students that fidget with or fiddle with a pen as well.
Yeah,
and it might be horrible when it's a clicking pen. They go click 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 click. You know.
I need a marker all the time in my hand.
You need a marker all the time. So I use this. I got it at a conference a couple of weeks ago.
Even if I don't use
and then I can do this all the time. I can play around with it, and it works for me. It might not work for another student. I said this to a teacher today, and they said, "Yeah, I gave one to the student. He threw it at his friends."
Of course,
it's not the reason. But coming to what she said before, she said about I got short sessions, a lot of students. And I'm coming to what I said before. It's not about dealing with them. It is about what can I do that works for the whole class.
That's it.
And
asking.
And if you have a short session. Two things that I would do. First of all, try to make sure the neurodiverse students sit closest to you. Yeah, make sure they're not in the back of the classroom, like the student you mentioned, Mike. That kid that sits far away in the back. Make sure he sits closer to you, so you can keep an eye on him, and you can see in their eyes if they get it. They don't.
Of course.
And break. I mean, your class is short.
Exactly.
Anyway. Break your class up in short chunks. Make it 1 to, I don't know, if it's a 45-minute class, make it like, I'm going to say 5 chunks. A little chunk, an activity, standing up, sitting down, stretching, I don't know, dancing a little bit for 30 seconds. Right? I'm not saying about minutes. 30 seconds, sit down, the brain gets a different movement. You got dopamine flowing around your brain as well. You sit down again, you can focus again. 7-10 minutes or 5-8 minutes, do another activity, 5-8 minutes, do another activity. So it's all about getting everything that's on the menu and choose and pick what works for you in your particular situation.
Yeah, very good advice. Yeah, thank you very much, Bulo. Yeah,
Yes.
really good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that was awesome. The time flies so fast. You see, it's already time to say goodbye. Very interesting. Thank you, Bulo. It's impressive the way you present everything. Really, I really recommend to go and check out his course. Of course, not check out, but if very interesting too, for sure. Because sometimes I'm afraid not, we're all afraid to do something wrong. In fact, that's the thing. And for me, every student is the same. There's no stupid ones. There are no better than others. It's just there's only a stupid education. That's what I mean, because everyone is on this way of to educate, mainstream education. And then there are many ways to teach something that, and there's one that, like I always say, with when you have pleasure in learning something, you're going to remember, because what we do with pleasure, we never forget, right?
Exactly.
What we learn with
Absolutely.
pleasure. Yeah.
And
Thank
it's
you so
really,
much, Below.
yeah, sorry, Mike. Yeah. I was just going to quickly,
No, all good.
just before we finish up. I mean, I've been teaching for 21 years, a long time, and after 21 years, I still don't know or didn't know before this live stream very much about dyslexia and ADHD learners. It's just some kind of information that's floating around that's not, whether it's true or not. So I would really advise people to take Bulo's course. And if there's administrators out there, people in leadership positions, check it out
yeah.
and start making moves to get your teachers on, because we need to know more.
That's the
Exactly.
website. People can visit. People can contact me. I'm happy to talk to administrators, to school managers as well, and see what we can do and work together, and make this a dyslexia friendly world.
Well said.
Sure. Exactly. We're all sisters and brothers, and our mother is Earth. That's what I always say. That we had to help each other in a world where everything is going not the right way. When I think we got to keep on moving, we got to keep that positive attitude, help each other's teachers all together, and make a better world, because we are caring about kids that are going to be the future of humanity, right? Ah, man.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bulo. That was awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks
so
to
much
Thanks, Mike.
for
Thanks, Bulo.
Thank you, guys.
and all right, take care. We keep in touch. The link is in the description down below. If you want to go to Bulo's class courses, feel free to join. What an interesting life, huh, Stu?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna join up myself, just because I owe it to my students to know more. How can you be a
Yes,
teacher for 20 years and not have done this already? It's I need to address that.
exactly. Because that's true. Because sometimes you don't feel that students, or you might think he's lazy, but in fact, yeah. There's more undercover. I mean, it's really difficult to figure it out. And I think it's very important because, like I say, you don't want to hurt them as well. You don't want to be remembered as a bad teacher who hurted him bad in his heart. You understand?
Yeah, like you owe it to your students to give it your best shot. And then if your student has special
Yes,
needs, it's got ADHD or dyslexia, you need to give it your best shot, and you need to understand that condition and how to work with it and what to do to make sure your student thrives.
exactly. Great. Thank you, Stu, for joining again. And the next live stream is going to be May 22nd, a special live stream. We're going to be talking about tech tools. Go is the winner of the best virtual classroom in 2024. So you don't want to miss this live. It's going to be on the ESL live stream, of course, with Xavier, the co-owner of Koala Go. That's going to be our second live together. We had one before, that was a year ago. And that's a really interesting platform for online teachers. Thank you, everyone, for following. Don't forget to give some likes, follow the channel, help us, Mike and Stu. In here, we are helping you every year. Don't forget to follow Stu on YouTube as well, and his wonderful course that is right here on the screen. Always, Stu has an incredible TEFL course in here, which is a TESOL level 4, right?
Yeah, it's a wonderful course. We're up to 3,200 learners now, all working
Awesome.
away on their TESOL course. So if you're out there and you want to get into language teaching, or you're already teaching and you want to get better, you want to have a better course, click the code. I think you get 30% off.
Exactly. I'm going to put the link right into the description. Feel free as well to follow Stu on YouTube. He's got a lot of, what is it called? Interviews as well with some specialists about vocabulary.
All of the time. Yeah. So please click. I'm trying to get to 6,000 subscribers. I'm kind of stuck in the mud a bit. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching this, please help.
Yes, and as well, feel free. Oops, what am I doing? That's the live stream, real time. I got buttons everywhere, jumping up and down after 1 hour of chat. It's, getting tired. Thank you, everyone, following on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We'll see you next time in the ESL live stream. Thank you, Stu. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Mike. Yeah, see you later. Bye.
And be careful to your, you got to make it with your teeth. No problem, bro.
Don't remind me. See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.